Questions, comments?
I'm gonna wait.
Okay.
Yeah, you too. On second comments.
Okay.
Does anyone have any input after reading this agreement on, are there any terms that any members of this board are looking at and saying, there's no way I'd ever agree to that anyway?
The ones that I take great exception to are the ones that are changing.
Okay.
The elements that are difficult to, I guess, accept are the unknowns. Because there are things in this that talk about the ability to hire an executive director, the ability to hire consultants, the ability to buy land, the ability to incur debt, and everything else. So without, and if this is a shared cost by every ratepayer that's going to be a part of this agreement, before I would entertain signing this or even agree to be a part of the JPA, I'd want to know, A, what's the cost to the district? What's the cost going to be passed on to the ratepayers? And that's not something that seems like it's very easy to figure out.
Well, and that particular type of thing is going to be something that will be worked out as part of a rate study, not necessarily this agreement. So this agreement opens the door to have that authority to buy land or to hire somebody, but the JPA, if it's formed, the JPA would have to adopt a budget, which would outline what those costs are. And as has been discussed before, if they're going to buy property for a project or if they're going to buy whatever, that has to be something that is funded through the rates of the JPA. So the district in particular wouldn't be, writing a check for that. It would be the JPA collecting rates through property tax or however that would be paid for that. So that would have to be a budgeted thing.
It's not necessarily true. Because if the rates don't cover the projects, then the members in this agreement are agreeing to contribute.
That's right.
For the period until the rates are in effect.
But the rates don't cover certain expenses. So there could be, it's a public agency, there's always unknown expenses that come up. And if the rates don't cover it, then the members must contribute. And the agreement covers that as well. And so it is not something that is necessarily going to be completely covered by the ratepayers, by the extraction fees that are put out there. So, for instance, if they were sued, that would not be covered by the extraction fees.
Right.
Potentially.
So that is something. So really, Kelly's right. When a JPA is put together, those types of budgetary expenses are not laid out because they can't be until it's created and then the budget process begins. But what really needs to be looked at is the budget process laid out in here, the voting process, the rights and obligations of each of the members, and whether you agree with that process and if it's fair. And so that's really, when you're reading this, I want you to look at the potential issues that could come up and how they laid out this process.
But the other side of it too is that, as far as the cost goes, not having anything established up front, and there's unknowns in the costs, as you pointed out, could be borne by, or not covered by fees collected, however they decide to do that, whether it's through rates or tax roll, whatever. And I guess the concern is that, it feels like you're signing a blank check. Like whatever they decide they want, they're just going to collect it from the 5 parties to this agreement. So is our cost going to be 20% or is it going to be 3%? That's unknown.
If I understand right, which please let me know if I'm wrong, we would be charged for what we use. Is that correct? As far as because our community is so small. Is that correct?
So initially, until money started coming in from the rate study through property tax or direct billing or whatever they're doing, we would be still paying 3% of whatever the budget is. So like currently our budget amount is $18,000 for the projected budget, which is what we budgeted. In the future, assuming that this is all created, the JPA is created, and they pass rates, then the district, in its current formulation, the district would be charged based on the acre feet that the district pumps. So if we pump 200 acre feet, then we'd be charged for 200 acre feet. And then we, as a district, would have to recoup that from our customers through our rate system, which is already set up. The parcels outside of our water system that don't pay rates, those properties would have to be billed by either the district would have to bill them independent of the JPA, or the JPA would have to bill them directly, most likely on the property. But in the end, assuming that this is all put together how I understand it, once the rates are in effect and they're collecting rate revenue, then the district wouldn't be paying its 3% anymore. We would be paying our share based on the amount that the district actually pumps.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know that there's a 30-day exit clause in the language here. But if we agree as a party to this JPA, and we at a future date elect to exercise our 30-day exit, we're still obligated to pay financially for whatever time we were part of the JPA.
So it's actually 90 days. But yes, we are financially obligated for the projects that we agreed to during the JPA,
Yep.
or for the general budget items that were agreed to during the JPA. So not only for that 90 days, but through the end of that fiscal year.
Right. Which could be a bad deal. And the other part of this too, they kept the supermajority for the voting in section 6.8. That's still current.
Yes.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Anybody? Oh, you have public comment?
Yeah, there we go.
Good. I've been pretty busy with some of this, so yeah, so this whole thing with all these changes, so I'm not even going to go through them. I think there's been 4 versions, and the one that got voted back in on the 4th by the Board of Supervisors isn't this one. So now they haven't even approved anything. So a couple things here. So I went to the last EPC board meeting, and I went to the joint one that they just had 2 days ago. The EPC meeting back on the 22nd of January, they didn't approve the 5-party one. They approved the 4. It doesn't matter to you guys on the 4. Yeah, they had questions about it. Then 2 days ago at the joint EPC San Juan, they essentially approved the this draft, I believe. But there's a draft, this is the one I said, says they changed the date on each page, so it's now 2/21. So, but they approved it, but they haven't signed it. And the EPC in the meeting I was at just with them, they said they want to see what Passerola's going to do. So I wouldn't be pulling a trigger on this. I mean, I agree with you guys that I don't think you probably should be in it, but I think you shouldn't be pulling the trigger yet, because the other thing is I got a hold of the county administrator to find out, first of all, back on the 4th, they didn't even have the right draft. They just threw it up there. They didn't even actually show the draft in the hearing. It was a 1-day notice. I mean, it wasn't even a 1-day notice, so it was a Brown Act deal, of course. They don't care. So they haven't even approved it. And talking to the administration office, they said they don't have, I said, send me what the hell they were talking about at that hearing, because nobody had even seen it, and they did. But today I called again, gal there is real helpful. They do not have a final draft.
Okay.
So there's no real reason to do, I think at this point, to pull the trigger on any of this. The other thing is, and I handed you guys budgets the last time I was here, and I've got them again. Right now, if you look at the rate study, which there's no draft yet, but there's been a couple of PVC meetings where they put out stuff, if you go back and look at those agendas. And I'll give you guys these again. But this is the numbers they're working off of for the rate study. And if you look at some of the programs, they don't even exist. They talk about a Miller program on here that after the 5th year, this is a 5-year budget, they're saying, oh, it's going to cost $2.5 million in the 5th year to pay for Miller. And I tell them, I said, I don't think they'll get 20 people that ever even sign up for it, because nobody likes it. So what you got here is a bunch of stuff hanging out in the air, and I think I would just sit back and see where this all goes.
You know how this goes.
Yeah, we're talking.
You know how this goes. You know what I mean? Thank you.
Here.
I
I had one for you.
No, I need all of them to give to the board.
So anyway, yeah, so the rate study's up in the air.
We're at time.
The extraction fees that you were just talking about real quick, there's nothing that talks about how they're even gonna do that.
Yep.
I don't think they're gonna be measuring pumping, because that would be against, what some of these water pirates want anybody to ever know about. So,
Thank you.
that's where we're at.
Don't start yet, Greg. I'm gonna hand these out.
Good, I need to stretch my legs anyway.
There you go. Stand up.
Oh my God.
I got one will be posted on the website.
What time is dinner?
4 hours ago.
They were like 3 hours ago.
Ready? Yep. Thank you. Yeah, the rate study, they spent 150 grand, but they don't have it done, but they tell us a little bit. They don't have any easements and they have no system of works. That's why they're talking about buying land. Before they were allowed to be water districts with non-contiguous boundaries, that was one of the requirements to petition. There will be. We're working right now with Howard Jarvis on the 218. So it's a protest vote because they don't want people to vote yes or no. They want it to be an automatic yes unless you protest no. The extraction tax. Just for everybody that has a well. If you don't have a well, or a piece of property that has a well, you're not part of this deal. What are the golf courses and the tasting rooms and all these other places gonna do? I can tell you right now, I spoke in front of 150 people last week. I'm speaking at 2 other engagements coming up. People are pissed. We already went through this in 2016 with AB 2453. This is just a backdoor around the thing. And like you said, there was a Brown Act violation because you don't get to take a discussion item as an action item and then add stuff to the agenda the day that you're having the meeting with no public comment on it. So there is going to be stuff with the DA's office and with other things if they want to go forward with this. There's commercials running, there's banners getting ready to be put up, there's all kinds of things going around. The other thing is I was on, and Murray was on the same committee, technical advisory committee. It was the Miller and there was the blended water one. The blended water is dead because they're not going to sell that stuff with the PFAS possibly in it. They got the money in August of 2022. It has to be spent by April of this year. We identified 130 to 150 wells that they could talk to the people, but they decided to hire a consultant to do that. And they put in 2 systems out of the 130. That's all they got done. My new deal, which everybody's agreeing with, we're not going to sign their 5-page Rita Neal agreement to have access to the information of the well. They're going to sign our agreement if they want the information, and they're going to pay a tariff for the information. We're not giving them anything. They think they're gonna start an extraction, we're gonna start a tariff on them. They're not gonna get any information unless they pay for it, as a right to the property owner, and they can go tell the Department of Water Resources why their whole program turned to crap because of Bruce Gibson and Blaine New. And so you guys are gonna have to do whatever you wanna do. I wouldn't buy a house that I didn't see, with not knowing what's in it or anything about it. And you have nothing, which section of that talks about that nothing's gonna change and the fees aren't gonna change?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
So the Board of Supervisors approved this deal on a 3-2 vote. The 2 supervisors that represent people over the big basin voted no. So it was all the coastal lefties that voted yes on this deal, under, Bruce Gibson's instructions. I have a couple questions. So this district will be charged with a new pump. And then I think you're still going to be on the hook for any expenses that are above that, if the rates don't cover that. Is that correct? What, your 3%?
Yes.
If that could happen. And then on this potential 218, if this district opts out of it, or out of the new joint powers agreement, are all the people that live in the district exempt from the 218?
Yes.
Okay, so all the people with their domestic wells, they're off the hook. And if the district, all the people that use water here, if the 218, are they part of that? Are they voting for that too? Because it will affect their rates.
It's only groundwater extractors.
But the district is a groundwater extractor.
Right, the district's considered one extractor. So no, our rate payers are done the same thing.
So it's just the director. Okay. Yeah, so this is just an unnecessary layer of another bureaucracy. We have a county, we have a guy that's supposed to manage the basin, and now we're gonna add literally hundreds if not millions of dollars for this whole new bureaucracy to be created. Another government fees that are just gonna be intrusive on it's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. And next PDC meeting should be interesting, and I look forward to coming back and reporting to you gentlemen on what happens there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other public comment? Let's see where they left. Any other comment from the board? My personal feeling would be that we see what Paso Robles does and see if anyone's going to ever produce a final copy of this document that will be in place for more than a few days at a time. I wouldn't consider it in its current format, obviously. And, I'm not really inclined to make any moves on it today. That's my opinion.
Any other opinions?
No, I agree with that also. Wait to see what Paso Robles is going to do.
So I guess from my perspective, I just need to know that the board wants us to bring this back, whatever current version. It seems like everybody's waiting to see what everybody's doing. So I don't know if anyone really wants to approve it.
Yeah, it can be brought back. The question is when.
Yeah.
Is there a deadline this far?
Well,
Do we have a deadline on this?
if Paso, let's say Paso and EPC approve, I think the current deadline is like March 7th or something, and then they've all agreed that they'll go forward with the 4-party if San Miguel isn't on board yet. Because they have a 4-party agreement that just doesn't include San Miguel, just in case. And because I frankly told them to stay and push through way too fast, and I just don't think that there's enough time for proper consideration. So what we can do is we can bring it back in March to give you an update on what Paso and EPC has done, and go from there.
Okay.
Wait.
Reasonable.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can I make a quick comment on that, please, real quick? So what at that ETC San Juan joint meeting the other day, they're shooting to have a rate study done by March 31st. And if I was you guys, I wouldn't even think of signing up for them until you even see what the rate study is and how the hell they think they're gonna do this.
March 31st of this year?
Yeah.
For a rate
Oh,
study.
yeah, they're in a big rush to get all this done. They want to get on people's tax bills by July 1st for the new fiscal tax year. Yeah. And it's just ran.
So maybe we should wait till April?
So the problem with the rate study is they need to know who's involved in it in order to develop a rate. So if they develop a rate with the four-party agreement, not including San Miguel, then that rate is going to look different than if they include San Miguel.
How can you do a rate study in 30 days?
Well, they've been working on it for a long time, so it's easy to modify the numbers at this point, just like it's easy for our rate study consultants to move things from one month to the next.
So they've had consultants working on this.
They've been working on it for the better part of a year, I think.
Okay.
But you can't do the rate study without having a JPA and having established who's part of it.
Right.
I see.
On the issue of rates in general, the district will still be obligated to do some reporting and some activities related to the annual report, related to the GSP, potentially having to redevelop a GSP. So even if we're not part of the JPA, we will still have costs. And because our area, assuming that we stay at GSA, our area does incorporate some properties that are not in our water system, we would have to develop a rate to collect some fees from those people for the basic administration of this GSA. What that looks like, I can't tell you. I'm not going to tell you. I don't have any information on that.
Understood.
Don't hold it against me next month. Really don't appreciate that. But, although I wholly agree with what's been said so far, that we shouldn't be, even preliminarily agreeing to something if we don't know what it is, and especially with stuff like this revision from the 21st, where it just came out. It's really hard to know what the actual final version is going to be. And although the board could approve a version and authorize minor changes, like the change that came out on the 21st is not a minor change. So, although it is in our benefit, it's still not a minor change. So we can bring it back once we have a quote-unquote final version, hopefully before our March meeting. And if the board wants to take action at that point, then we'll leave it open to the board to do that.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Can I say one last thing, please?
Sure.
Ever since Bruce Gibson took over and removed the other supervisors, there has not been a GSA meeting for the constituents that live over the basin. It's been almost 2 years. And they have not been notified of anything that is going on in the ex parte meetings with him. You guys are a water district of your community. Paso Robles is a water district of their community. Shandon, the county is the water district for Shannon. There is no water district, and the two fake water districts that don't deliver water, they have their people, 60 people in San Juan and 160 people, and they don't have them, don't live here. There is no water district for the rest of the people. I'm the water district on my ranch. I pay for everything that's there. So this is going to be a major problem. There's already groups out there. There is going to be some legal action if something goes down.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
If we, the thing I'm most wondering is, if we put this off, is there a chance that they will move on before we actually get a say?
Yeah.
There is.
Oh, yeah, that's why we have a four-party agreement that discounts San Miguel from being part of it. But it does contemplate the potential for San Miguel to join at a later date and what that looks like. And so it's not like a take it or leave it forever. And also, if you don't join Because we are all part of the same GSP with shared responsibilities with that, there's always the option to enter into an MOU with the JPA so that we're not having to break off and do our own GSP just for updates, right? Like we agree to share the costs and consultants for updating the GSP or some limited thing for the things that are actually required right now. And so there's a lot of options on the table. This is not a make or break decision at this point in time.
DPC, when I went to that meeting, they were jumping up and down about how they had problems with a lot of this too. I was actually surprised. And one of the comments was, well, yeah, we'll see what Paso does, and if Paso doesn't want to do it, then they said that we're just going to go off and do it on our own. I don't even know how the hell that
Maybe that was on
but, it's like,
All right. Thank you. So we will adjourn the GSA meeting and reconvene to our regular meeting.
Time?
10:21.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you for coming.
Nice seeing you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Board comments.
Hey, wait, bigger. Goose.
Yes.
Sure. Almost right.
Board comment?
Yeah, well, actually, I guess I'm still, it's a question now. What we did, we don't have a farther date discussing the last, about the JPA, right?
March meeting.
March meeting.
Oh, okay. All right, so yeah,
Situation
that's
report.
fine.
March meeting.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
Nothing. Go ahead.
What happened to the timer that was up there?
Scott has that, and I forgot to get it before this week.
We don't need it. Yeah, no, we don't need it. We don't need it.
Well, I got a timer right here.
Yeah, I
It's even
know.
more annoying than that one.
People go a little over, so what?
Well, the problem is we end up here at,
Well, I know, but
10:20.
this is about public input, you know? And I want to make it as easy and whatever.
Do you want to update the board policy?
No, I just want to be kind to people. That's all. Remind me where we are with discretionary funds for the downtown landscape plumbing.
So we're looking into other funding. So nothing's been done at this point as far as repairs.
Right.
We're looking at whether or not the county wants to pony up something. And
What
then
about
that-
John Pashong's
that's part of
discretion?
it.
Yeah, have you reached out to him?
So his funding apparently, his overall discretionary funding is no longer available. It's under a different beneficial use thing. But he does have other funding. I haven't talked to him as of yet, but we'll see what he has.
Okay, well, we're gonna wait on going forward.
Right.
Okay, I have some ideas that I think would be beneficial. Like, in front of the post office, concrete, no plantings, because people just get out of their car and walk through it, and you trip on the stuff, and it was kind of a silly idea to put it in front of the post office. I think that the Elkhorn could have a parklet, like taking out that one shrub that's there, and let them extend their space out to the sidewalk. Just some ideas to throw out. Dissolving the district and return it to the county. This is in response to a letter we received from Mr. Campbell. Would LAFCO would they even permit that? Would they allow that? Would the county have any interest in that? I mean, is it laughable?
The county would have to agree to take it on.
Right?
Yeah.
And in order to find that, we would have to start the process with LAFCO to see,
Right.
which is expensive.
Well, I was originally told that once LAFCO created the district, they wouldn't undo it.
That's no, that's not true. There's
That's
a
not true?
dissolution
Okay.
process.
They're not really interested in doing that, but they will do that. Since
We did at our expense to do it.
we have to pay to do it.
Oh, it'd be very expensive to do.
I mean,
It'd be expensive to give this back to the county. And who would you reach out to, Public Works or the supervisors?
no, I mean, first you go to LAFCO, you talk to LAFCO, then you go to talk to the county administrator and, work that way. Eventually, the board of supervisors, assuming LAFCO approves our application, board of supervisors would have to approve it. The state would have to approve it. and
I can't
transfer it.
even imagine they'd want anything to do with it.
The only thing
They wouldn't have pushed it off in the first place.
The only thing I can think is that we're actually sustainable, so they might take it just because it doesn't cost them. I'm not advocating for that.
I'm not advocating either, but
$15 million deficit.
but to point out all the negative aspects, I mean, to weigh the pros and cons, is that something that we should do? Would it benefit the community?
If you would like, I can bring back a brief explanation of the process and what it would look like for the community in the future.
Is there a second on that?
I second that. I'd like you to do that.
And just to be clear, this is not going to be next month.
Yeah, I
This will
know.
probably be like
Careful.
April,
I'm only on for 4 years.
May or June
2026.
2028. Hold on, let me write this down. Hold on, please.
Yep.
Samsung, and then they just tell you you didn't
Like
get
that?
paperwork.
No.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm gonna say this right, but request a review of the lighting plan. Now, I think we already have a good lighting plan, it just, is it PG&E that is not cooperating still? I mean, it's been years.
So, if you're what you're referring to is the email that I sent you earlier.
The letter that you read tonight.
Yeah, so we don't have, quote unquote, a lighting plan. We have a lighting standard, which is Caltrans and PG&E standard.
That's an
There's no
UTCD.
master plan? I thought we had a lighting master plan.
No, we don't have a lighting master plan. That would actually be coming back next month
Oh,
because we put out an RFP to get a cost for doing our master plan, which is something that had been asked for a long time, and we just had, honestly, it wasn't super high on the list. But, and that's what I was referring to in my email with you, was that's something that we can bring up, is where streetlights are necessary. To answer your last question, PG&E was the problem the last time I was.
I remember that. It took them forever to get 14th and River there.
Oh, yeah. Well,
14th and Mission.
this last time it took them so long that they updated their system and lost our application, so.
Okay, so can we review that?
So either I can propose some lighting locations and the board can approve the cost to do that, or we can go through the process of the master plan and identify, lighting throughout the district. It's up to the board.
so as a whole, is it more advantageous to simply add some new lights to the existing system that we have, or could it potentially be advantageous to upgrade some of the lighting that exists?